Hello everybody, welcome back to Nissan Review. I'm going to do this one today just because it's kind of weird. Driver's side airbag module 2 open. You can see here module 2 open. I've got other issues, but we're going to ignore this one because it's a passcode right now. This one's currently the issue. This is actually 2, so if I rescan this I should have both on here. And at one point it fixed itself. Don't worry about the module communication bit. Not really concerned with that at that point. That's probably because a lot of stuff under here is unplugged. But I've got a resistance meter hooked up to this. There's no airbag in here. It's just going into the back of the clock spring, and then it's coming through here and then out in the other one. There's actually 3 wires back there. I'll show you that. For some reason there is a shared ground, which is red, and then yellow and green, which are the positives and of this basically multimeter, because that's how this figures out if there's good enough resistance for the system to work well. So if I turn the wheel, you'll see that the clock spring resistance changes quite a bit. At one point I got it to fix itself. Went to 2.5 ohms because my light went out. And I originally thought that the airbag was actually the problem. That's why I went this step further in doing this resistance measurement. Yeah, trying to get it to fix itself. So I can show you. Not sure how to fix it now. If I wiggle this, I will change the resistance here, but I can't ever get it to go all the way to 2 ohms. So the resistance is just too high. Even if I hold pressure on it, so it's definitely touching all the sides. Best I got is, 20 something ohms. So pretty much the reason I'm doing this video here is to show you another way of checking a clock spring. You could do the same thing with a jumper wire instead of a 2 ohm resistor if you don't have one, and a DVOM, because then it would just be 0 ohms instead of the 2.5. I'm actually going to rehook it up to this yellow one just so you can see what a good one looks like. Alright, so you can see already we're at 2.5. I can wiggle this a little bit off the bat. Doesn't really change. I'm just doing that. Alright, we're gonna turn the wheel. What I'm doing is turning the wheel. You can see pretty obvious that the other circuit is a problem. Doing this pretty quick. Still nothing. So it needs a clock spring. I'm going to inform them that there was another stored code and that it might be an issue in the future, but right now it's not. And yeah. I'm also going to talk to an old buddy because he just did one of these clock springs and he had a problem with this light flashing afterwards, even though that there was no codes in the module, and he couldn't get it out. So I'm going to have to talk to him to make sure before we go ahead that there's nothing weird about that. But yeah, other than that, I'd like to thank you for watching and have a great day. Alright everybody, got the Nissan back in here that needs the clock spring. Here is the old clock spring. There are 2 bolts, one here and one here, that come in from the other side, which is the front, and then one clip right here that takes it off. These just slide off. They have 2 little tabs on the side here, one there, one there. Squeeze and they slide right off. Same thing with this one. You also need to take the steering angle sensor off the back. That has 3 little screws, as you can see here, 1 there and 2 at the bottom. And that all needs to be switched over to the new one, and then we go ahead and reinstall it inside there. I didn't show you guys how to take the airbag out, so I guess I'll go over that now. If you're a DIYer, here's a new clock spring. The airbag is pretty easy on this one. There are two T30 tamper-proof Torx. They look like this, and they go in on the side. There's actually two little holes on the steering wheel, wherever it may be. Right there. And right there. And then once you take them out, pops right out. Super easy. Probably easiest airbag ever. The column covers have 3 holes in it. Or it has 4 holes in it, but 3 of them have Phillips heads in them. Of this variety. So there's that. The steering wheel itself has got a locator on it, and so does the steering wheel, so I don't have to worry too much about not aligning it or marking it or anything like that. It's a 19mm here. So yeah, I'm just gonna do all that, but in reverse order. Alright everybody, one thing I forgot to mention when putting this steering angle sensor on is there is a tab here and here that this needs to sit in on the clock spring. So you don't want to just try to tighten it down without these 2 tabs where they go. Definitely spin this steering angle sensor when you're doing it, and not remove the grenade pin. You don't want to remove this until you're ready to put the steering wheel on. So next is putting it here, which is pretty easy. It just snaps in on the top, so be able to do that. Maybe. Oh girl, there you go. Snaps in just like that. Yeah. And then there's 2 Phillips. They shouldn't come out. There's a little tab in this slot here that holds them in from coming out. So we'll tighten those down. Plug all my connectors in. There's one up here. There are 3 down here. This yellow plug needs to go in first before this gray plug, and then vice versa coming out. Otherwise it will not work. Right there, make sure it's in the right orientation. That snaps in there. And then this gray one goes in on the same hole. They kind of like interlock. That's why the one has to go first. And then this is the steering angle sensor one. They're all in. So that's good. Next step is put the steering wheel on. I'm going to kind of need 2 hands for that. So, but you basically pull this grenade pin and you feed these through without spinning this. If you spin this at all, you're kind of screwed. You're going to have to find center again. This is a $400 clock spring, so you don't want to do that. So I'm going to pull the pin, feed these through the steering wheel where they go, and then put it on. Alright, you can see I got it on. I fed these through. Now I just got to put these into their little holders. You can see that they've got some tape here to protect them, and then you can double check that your splines splines lined up. If it is, then you can just go ahead and put your nut back on. Mine's up here. There is a torque for this. If you really care, you can do that and look it up on your own. I don't. I do this. So if you don't like that, please tell me how much you hate that in the comment section. I'll be happy to read them and laugh at home. But over tightening this is not going to do much. And under tightening it, it's going to be loose before it falls off, so no one's in danger. Next step is to hook up the airbag, plug it in here, and then plug these in. You can see here that they're color coded, so you can't put them in the wrong spot. I'm not sure, I haven't tried it, but I think that the locator tabs might be different also. Alright, there they go. They go all like that. Flip it around. Stick it on here till the horn beeps. There we go. The next thing I have to do is put the two screws in here, but before I do that, I'm going to fire this off. I know some of you might be in the comments mentioning that I didn't disconnect the battery. So the light's on. I did have to clear it before when I used my 2 ohm resistors to get the light to go out, so I'll set up all my stuff now and make sure the light goes out before we go any further. Alright, let's see what we got here. Alright, everything's here. It's all passed, so that's good. This light is very well likely blinking because of a calibration that needs to be done for the clock spring itself. So let's first do the basics and erase these codes. Reread. There shouldn't be anything in here. No, there isn't. And then we will start it up. We'll see if this light goes back out or if it stays on. I guess not. I am going to do a steering angle sensor calibration. You should need a scan tool for that. Go all the way. No, I don't want to do that. I want to go out to hot functions. And SAS. Get some SAS over here. Make sure my steering wheel is nice and straight. Okay, I'm gonna have to figure out, I'm gonna have to pause this and figure out which ECU it is. Alright everybody, I already did it, but mine was the 034F. I don't know what's the difference between them all. I would assume it has to do with the, I'm not sure. See, I'm not sure if they're talking about a different ECU here or if it's over there, but mine was the 034F. So, all right, now that I'm comfortable with my airbag light being out and I've got no codes or anything, I'm going to put these tamper-proof Torx back in here on each side, and I'm going to snap the column covers back together. Okay, so those bolts are back in their holes. Next thing to do is put these covers back. So, I'll do those now. They don't seem to have any specific orientation. They just go in. Get the hell out of here. Oh, great. Now I dropped it. Oh, look at that. Got a whole hash brown in here. Okay, both little caps are reinstalled. Now we've got to do the column covers. Alright, this one you got to slide over this little lever here so it fits in. You do have to pull this down slightly so you can get past the things. And then these just have a bunch of little clips on the side that pop together. So you do that like this. There you go. It's all down. We make them touch and then we put the screws in. Alright, so I made them all nice and touched. There are locator bits that keep them going the right place, so if it's not going in easily, don't force it. They have, you know, they go together a certain way. Last step is this little ring. It goes right here. So we'll do that on camera, I guess. That's it. Double check to make sure your airbag light's not on. It's not. And then we'll turn the wheel to make sure it stays out. That red light's a seatbelt light, if anyone's worried about that. Looks good to me. So, thanks for watching. Have a great day. And I just almost pulled out with, don't forget to put in the column covers. So don't forget to do that. Those 3 go in the bottom of this here plastic.